You are paying hundreds of millions of dollars to fund so-called zombie programs, or programs that essentially Congress keeps bankrolling even though they've expired authorizations. And now leaders are calling on the new Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, to start getting those programs out. Joining us this morning to discuss is the Deputy Public Policy Editor for OpenTheBooks.com, Rachel O'Brien. Good morning, Rachel. Happy Friday.
Good morning. Happy Friday.
Explain these zombie programs and how are they still getting funded?
Yeah, these are federal programs with expired authorizations. So when Congress votes to provide funding, it also does it for a set number of years. So once that expires and the deadline passes, Congress has to pass a new law to provide more funding. But in many cases, they're not doing that. So you have these expired or zombie programs that are getting federal funds, and they technically don't exist. They're on autopilot. They're not getting proper oversight. So last year, Congress funded almost 1,300 zombie programs. Half of them expired at least 10 years ago. So the Congressional Budget Office found the dollar amount for a little more than a third of those, added up to $516 billion in funding. The other 2/3 are not accounted for. They're not quite sure what they spend on them, but $516 billion for programs that technically don't exist.
Okay, what are some of these examples? What are some of these programs, and who are the worst culprits?
Yeah, so the Foreign Relations Authorizations Act, for example, that expired in 2003, so legally should no longer exist. But Congress keeps funding its programs. 24 of the programs last year were given $38 billion. And that allows legislators to sort of influence the White House's foreign policy and security assistance in other nations. You know, the House Committee on Energy and Commerce, we found that they had 346 expired programs, more than any other committee. And then in terms of highest dollars, the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions, they spent more than any other group on expired programs, $153 billion. So it's a lot of money coming out of Congress.
Yeah, and that program, by the way, that group chaired by Senator Bernie Sanders from Vermont, the total federal budget in 2024 was $6.8 trillion, meaning expired programs take up at least 8% of the budget, and obviously likely more. The big question, though, why is this happening, and how can this be prevented, Rachel?
Congress is failing at its most basic responsibility. It's supposed to authorize the programs that they're spending money on. So in some cases, it's been decades since Congress put these programs through the formal process of review or up for a vote, meaning, you know, the American people have had little to no input in how these programs are functioning. So it's legislative laziness. Congress can right this wrong by doing their due diligence and reviewing these programs, doing their jobs, really. It comes down to that very basic fact that they're not doing their jobs. They got to determine whether we need these programs from years ago at all. And if so, vote to reauthorize them. If not, get rid of them. So Congress should do this work, or like you said, if they're not going to, they're going to be told to do it by DOGE and cut this fat.
DOGE is going to be very busy in this new administration. Always great to see you, Rachel O'Brien with OpenTheBooks.com. Hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you, Jan. Thanks for having me.
Of course.